Imagine a civilization that built no palaces, no pyramids, no statues of all-powerful kings. A civilization that took the entire wealth of its empire and spent it not on monuments to the few, but on sanitation for the many. This is the story of the Indus Valley, the world's first welfare state. And the question nobody asks is this: why did the richest people in the Bronze Age choose not to build palaces? 7,000 years before the Common Era, long before the pharaohs dreamed of pyramids, something remarkable was stirring in the floodplains of the Indus River. At a site called Mehrgarh in modern-day Pakistan, the first farmers of South Asia were domesticating barley, over 90% of their crops, and wheat. They tamed zebu cattle and goats. They built rectangular houses, and they did something no other civilization had yet managed. They domesticated cotton. The word cotton itself traces back to the Indus Valley, the first people on Earth to spin thread from a plant. By 3300 BCE, the early Harappan period was underway. Small farming villages grew into towns, trade networks snaked out across the Iranian plateau all the way to Mesopotamia. Lapis lazuli from the mountains of Afghanistan began flowing through Indus ports. The seeds of something extraordinary were being sown. And then, around 2600 BCE, came the explosion, the mature Harappan phase, a civilization that covered 1.25 million square kilometers, larger than Egypt and Mesopotamia combined. 5 major cities, Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, Ganeriwala, Dholavira, Rakhigarhi, over 1,500 settlements, a population estimated at 1 to 5 million people, and not a single palace. Every house in Mohenjo-Daro had a bathroom. Let that sink in. In an age where the great cities of Mesopotamia dumped their waste into the streets, every single home in the Indus capital had a brick-lined bathroom connected to a covered sewer. The drains ran beneath the streets, 5 kilometers of them, with manholes for inspection and silt traps to prevent clogging. The archaeologist J.M. Kenoyer called it a marvel of engineering, the like of which was not to be seen again until the Roman Empire. This was not luxury for the elite. This was public infrastructure. The Indus invested collective wealth and quality of life for everyone, and the evidence is staggering. The Great Bath at Mohenjo-Daro, 12 meters by 7, 2.4 meters deep, was a public swimming pool built from kiln-fired bricks waterproofed with bitumen, fed by a well in an adjacent room, drained through a corbelled arch into the main sewer system, and it was public. No elite private pools, no royal spa, just a bath for everyone. At Dholavira, in the arid salt flats of Gujarat, engineers carved 16 reservoirs from solid bedrock. The largest was 79 meters long, 40 meters wide, 7 meters deep. Together they held enough water for 5,000 people, year-round, captured entirely from monsoon rains, the most sophisticated water harvesting system in the ancient world. Here is where the story gets interesting for anyone who cares about economics. The Indus Valley spent an estimated 40 to 50% of its surplus on public infrastructure. Sanitation, water, roads, food storage and redistribution took another 20%. Craft production and trade, another 20%. Administration and religion, roughly 10%. And the military, less than 1% of their economic output. Compare this with Egypt, where 50 to 60% of national wealth was poured into pyramids, tombs, and mortuary complexes, or Mesopotamia, where 30 to 40% went to military spending and fortifications. The Indus made a fundamentally different choice about what a civilization was for, and they had the economic infrastructure to back it up. Indus weights were standardized across all 1,500 settlements, a binary decimal system with a base unit of approximately 28 grams, exactly 1 modern ounce. An ivory scale from Lothal has graduations of 1.704 millimeters, the smallest division ever recorded on a Bronze Age measuring tool. This standardization meant that a merchant in Mohenjo-Daro and a merchant in Dholavira were trading on exactly the same terms. The economic transaction costs of the Indus civilization were lower than anywhere else in the ancient world, and the trade that flowed through this standardized system was enormous. Indus merchants exported cotton textiles, the only source of cotton textiles in the Bronze Age, to Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Persian Gulf. They sent etched carnelian beads, treated with a precise alkali process to create white geometric patterns across 30 sites in West Asia. They traded lapis lazuli, timber, ivory, shell bangles, copper tools, and steatite seals. We know this because Sargon of Akkad, the first empire builder in history, recorded ships from Meluhha, ships from Magan, ships from Dilmun, tied up at the quays of his capital. Meluhha is almost certainly the Indus Valley, and ships from Meluhha carried more than cargo. They carried the economic logic of a civilization that had solved a problem no one else had: how to grow wealthy without growing unequal. The houses of Mohenjo-daro confirm it. The variation in size is modest: no slums, no mansions. The average home had 3 to 6 rooms around a central courtyard, comfortable, decent, and broadly similar for most citizens. Copper and bronze, the high-tech metals of the age, were widely available, not restricted to elites. Bricks were standardized to a 1 to 2 to 4 ratio across the entire civilization, a 4,000-year-old building code that ensured every house met the same quality standard. And the ruler? We have a single statue, 17.5 centimeters tall, carved from steatite. It was found in fragments, discarded. We call it the priest king because we have no idea what else to call it. There are no royal tombs, no elaborate burials, no monuments to individual power. Scholars describe Indus governance as a heterarchy, power shared among merchant guilds, craft associations, and councils, not concentrated in a single monarch. But every system has a vulnerability, and the Indus welfare state was built on a single fragile foundation: the monsoon. Between 2200 and 1900 BCE, climate proxy data from speleothems in Oman and marine sediment cores from the Arabian Sea shows a 70 to 80% reduction in summer monsoon intensity. The rains failed, not in a single catastrophic year, but over centuries, a slow, grinding retreat of the life-giving waters. The Ghaggar-Hakra river system, once a perennial artery supporting hundreds of settlements, became seasonal. It now flowed only during rains. Cities were abandoned systematically from west to east, a slow-motion migration tracking the retreating monsoon. The standardized weights disappeared, writing declined, long-distance trade collapsed, the drains fell into disrepair, the baths went dry. The final irony is devastating. The same monsoon-based agricultural system that funded the world's first welfare state was its Achilles heel. When the rains failed, the entire economic model, built on centralized surplus redistribution, urban density, and long-distance trade, became unsustainable. The intricate web that made the Indus function also made it brittle. And here is what did not cause the collapse. There is no evidence of invasion, no mass violence at any Indus site, no evidence of climate catastrophe. It was too slow to kill anyone directly. The old Aryan invasion theory, proposed by archaeologist Mortimer Wheeler in the 1940s, has been abandoned. The Indus people did not die. They moved east toward the Gangetic Plain, where the monsoon still fell. They returned to village life. The cities emptied, but the people survived. 4,000 years later, the Indus blueprint endures. The weight system, a base unit of 28 grams, subdivisions on a precise binary decimal ratio, persisted in Indian metrology for 2,000 years. Kautilya's Arthashastra, written in the 4th century BCE, describes weights that match the Indus system exactly. The cotton that the Indus first cultivated became the textile that drew European traders to India. The bead-making techniques perfected at Lothal are still used today at Combat, just a few kilometers from the ancient dockyard. The same tools, the same patterns. 4,000 years of unbroken tradition. The Indus drainage system was not matched until the Roman Empire, 4 centuries later, and even Rome's system was less comprehensive per capita. It was not truly surpassed until the 19th century, when modern sanitation finally caught up with what the Harappans had achieved. And the welfare state idea itself? The model of public investment in basic infrastructure, sanitation, food storage, and equitable housing, no subsequent ancient civilization replicated it. Not until Asoka's edicts, 1,500 years later, do we see a ruler explicitly commit to public welfare as a governing principle. And even then, Asoka ruled an empire a fraction of the size with far less comprehensive infrastructure. The Indus Valley collapsed because its climate changed. The Akkadian Empire collapsed at the same time, under the same pressures. So did the Old Kingdom of Egypt. A single climate event, the 4.2 thousand year BP aridification, brought down 3 of the most sophisticated civilizations of the Bronze Age. Today, we face a climate crisis of our own making. And here's the uncomfortable question the Indus leaves us. What kind of civilization are we building? The Indus spent their surplus on sanitation, water, and public health. We spend ours on monuments to private wealth. They built drains that lasted 4,000 years. We build billion-dollar towers that will be rubble in a century. The Indus Valley did not leave us a list of kings or a record of battles. They left us something far more valuable, a proof of concept. A civilization can be wealthy, powerful, and sprawling, and still choose to care for all of its people. The Indus did not record their laws because we cannot read their script, but their buildings speak louder than any inscription. They remind us that the most radical economic choice is not about how much wealth you can accumulate. It is about how much you choose to share. The Indus Valley Civilization, the world's first welfare state, an empire that chose drains over palaces, public baths over royal tombs, and the health of its people over the glory of its rulers. We built better 4,000 years ago. The question is whether we can learn to build that well again. Script end.